Yellow. Before the last round started, Stephen Thompson sitting at his corner concerned about a compromised knee. From there, I hear something along the lines of, "You'll be okay." And here, seeing the stoic, certain look in his father's eyes, to me, what I feel is that it transcends a sense of belief in his son. It's a certainty. He just knows. His greatness is expected. That's what I feel looking at this picture here. And to me, the craziest part about all of that is how absolutely himself, how honest and authentic Stephen Thompson is in the way he carries himself. If you ever stumble across a page like Subtle Asian Traits, I found it on Facebook, and you can hear stories of how tiger parents, that's the term, very strict, parents who traumatize their children, projecting a desire of overachievement onto them. But it's as if the foundation that has been drilled, it's allowed him to become more of who he is. It allowed him to become more authentic instead of traumatized. You would never think of him in this way. He's so nice yet authentic. This balance that somehow occurred, it's a very rare sight. It's as if through the strength taught and drilled into him, they never took his wings, but instead, they made his wings stronger, more luminescent, so that he could soar and shine higher. In that sense, this image right here, for me, it's very moving. Seeing the respect Stephen Wonderboy Thompson has for his father, how he joins him on his interviews, how truly there's a level of respect and reverence during a time where people just have a knack for being ungrateful. In my mind, everything the moment I saw this, it just clicked. The legendary status Stephen Wonderboy Thompson has achieved in the arena, wholeheartedly brandishing the noble discipline of karate, it can never be recognized as a one-man job. What I feel is that deeply, it was the people surrounding him who helped cultivate that fire. Thus, when you look into the eyes of Mr. Ray Thompson, that certainty he has in the greatness of his son, that is definitely part of the bedrock that not only allows Stephen Thompson to be so present and fluid in the arena, to have so much faith and trust in himself and his abilities, but also to just honestly, authentically express himself everywhere, regardless of arena. Truly, it's a foundation of faith that I think the world needs to see more of. And with that, this is one of my favorite aspects of being a Stephen Thompson fan. He not only honors his roots, but he celebrates with them and includes them during a time where human beings have a knack for just pushing each other away. In general, I believe this here is just magic we need to see more of. I think. Now, there are a few things Stephen Thompson can do that act as a knowledge advantage over much of his competition. This is part of why his opponents have so much trouble dealing with him, but also, beyond that, what he's doing goes beyond even the technical foundation he's set, because even when you study him and train thinking you may have figured something out, his ability to adjust on the fly, adjust in the moment, is so very remarkable that the moment you think you've caught onto one pattern, he's just moving somewhere else or doing something else instead. How? In the words of the legendary karateka Stephen Thompson, you can't think in there, because if you think, you're too slow. Through flow state, he's harnessing a reaction time advantage that's constantly adjusting to the moment based upon the patterns and openings presented in that moment. That's why he's so slippery, that's why he's so hard to gauge the steel with. And with his hands down wider, that more bladed stance, he furthers this capacity by increasing his balance. Through that wider stance and lowered hands, he can do some things that other fighters cannot stylistically, and from there, that's where a lot of the frustration is dealt. I don't want to go too much into the details, but here's a few of the things Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is capable of. One of the reasons why it's so hard to punch with Stephen Thompson is because he's not playing the same game as his opponents. With a textbook punch, you want to move in with your feet, you want to move in with your base, you want to bring balance with you when you enter with your strike. Stephen Thompson, on the other hand, here is using a punch from karate, but he implements evasion into the strike as well. He does this very effectively. Note how, with his wider stance, he can not only move his weight over his hips and blitz into his opponent's face, but he can also take an angle while doing so. In this moment, there wasn't really a capacity for follow-up with a straight punch. He's executing a capacity to hit and not get hit because his opponent now first has to turn before he can regain his own line of attack. Just look at that. There are many reasons as to why Stephen Thompson is so hard to hit. This is definitely one of them. Bursting over his hips and into an angle while he simultaneously delivers a strike. As you can tell right now, if you're tired of Stephen Thompson touching you and you decide to force your way in, from there, he can take an angle against the space you walk into. Thus, with your line of attack now pointing in the wrong direction, he can touch you in the face against that forward momentum, while his opponent, on the other hand, has to turn and face him before they are able to strike again. Did you see that? He didn't just move back, he also took the slightest angle inward before delivering his strike. He's a master of center lines. When you understand, you realize that with Stephen Thompson, it's a game of lines. This is one of the many reasons as to why he can safely touch his opponents and, simply put, they can't do anything back. He puts himself into a position where he can quickly touch you, but you on the other hand have to turn towards that position before you can touch him. And that's just it. That's part of the reason why Stephen Thompson can keep schooling his opponents, why they don't really have too much of an answer. When it comes specifically to the game of angles, he's perhaps the best in the UFC to ever do it. Just look at that. It's perfection. Here, he didn't use a karate-style punch this time. Of course, with his balance, due to the karate style, he can reach over his hips and touch you from an angle. He can adjust to the range he needs to cover, then retract back to balance even when he misses a strike. That's how good his balance is when combined with the wider karate stance foundation. But here, he moves in like a boxer and touches Jeff Neal as he steps in, and because he's turning as he steps in to follow Stephen Thompson's angle through that window where Jeff's feet aren't set, that's where Stephen Thompson gets to touch Jeff with mitigated risk. When you understand, you realize why Thompson gets to constantly hit while not really getting hit. He's a magician of the center line, a master of the angle. Stephen Thompson is a magician. At 37 years old, he doesn't look like he's slowing down at all. He still looks very fresh mentally and physically, minus, of course, his knee injuries. And, of course, I attribute that to two things. First, of course, is his ability to consistently hit without getting hit, but also his training philosophy. Not trying to give each other brain damage in the gym, but more so, playing that game of touch. It takes two individuals humble and aware of what a hit looks like to respectfully grow and develop from that simulation. You throw that safe simulation into jeopardy when one person has too big of an ego to play it. Instead of accepting the touch when they are touched and then reflecting on why it happened so that they can overcome it the next time. Instead of becoming more self-aware through that process, instead, they decide in that moment to just hit a little harder, henceforth destroying that safe game. The dynamic from there has just changed. But because that air, that aura is established in his gym, at the age of 37, Stephen Thompson, he still looks like Wonderboy. He looks like Wonderboy even after the legendary wars he's had. Many would have lost themselves in training before they could have ever reached that age, which is why the career for a fighter is typically young. The body can only heal perfectly so many times. Eventually, it starts to make mistakes and it doesn't heal the same way it used to. But as a testament to what humility and respect can accomplish, fresh at the age of 37, even against the current generation, Wonderboy, he truly embodies what the martial arts have always been about. To that end, thank you, Stephen Thompson, for this lesson. Thank you for everything. And thank you to all of you. Until next time. Peace.